Blog Talk Radio.
Today we are with David Levine, who is a business coach and franchisee to Action International. And Don, I think we left off with talking a little bit about the industry and.
Yeah, David. I guess tell us what's been the most interesting thing that's happened to you since joining Action International.
Well, there's been a few interesting.
Probably have a few stories, right?
A few stories. I think one of the things that's very interesting is that my desire of trying to figure out what's going on in someone else's head, what were their goals and objectives. You're almost playing a little bit of a business shrink to some degree, but people in their business are very tied together. I think the simplicity of business, the universality of it, is one of the interesting things. For me personally, trying to wrap my head on getting out of the international space and getting down to the local level was a challenge. But bringing all those experiences to bear has provided a great reward, and that I think is the most interesting thing. When you walk into a client's office and they go, David, I can't wait to tell you what happened this week.
Right.
Really, that makes you feel so good that the message is getting through.
Right.
Or when I start with a client and my first question is, because they think they've hired me because of, let's say, my marketing background, and I come in and I say, all right, let me see an aging report, a balance sheet, and a P&L statement, and the two answers I usually get are, huh? Or my accountant handles all of that, and then teach them how to read their financial statements, that all of a sudden I come back 6 months later, or after doing this every week for them for the next 6 months, and then showing them different things, and all of a sudden they go, David, look what I just learned how to do in QuickBooks. This is a great report.
Right.
So just really, your high is just really seeing somebody develop and grow and become successful. That's interesting. I guess part of your job is adjusting to people's personality. Everybody's different, so you have to quickly find out how people are, and then I guess once you're really making a difference in that business, I guess that's a nice feeling.
It's a wonderful feeling.
Do you find they become very dependent on you at times too, David? Certain clients? I mean, I think
some do. I've gotten calls. I'm out in the evening, get a call. I'm just about to walk into a sales meeting. What do I say? And this is a woman that's built up a $10 million sales business. So it's funny that sometimes they do become a crutch, but your job is to show them how they can do that themselves. And that's something you also teach where, a perfect example is that employees become dependent on their bosses.
Certainly.
And business owners and franchises or in small businesses are constantly being interrupted. What should I do now? And the boss says, all right, do this, this, and this. And I turn around and said, you know what you've just done is you've just taught him that anytime he needs to make a decision, he's got to come back to you.
Right.
As opposed to saying, what do you think you should do? That's a great idea. Go do it. And he won't come back and bother you again because he knows that's what you want him to do.
Interesting. That's something. What type of characteristics, David, make for a successful Action International franchisee? Well,
I think you said it when talking about me before about passion. I mean, you really have to have a passion for business. My wife makes a joke that most husbands have a garage full of hobbies or a basement with a workbench. My hobby is business. I live for business. That's what I basically do. So I think it's a passion for that. It's being able to sell yourself, because even though we have a great system, the client is buying you. The client is not buying Action International.
Right.
Action International is there for us to help the business owner, but the business owner is relying on you.
Certainly.
That's a good point, yeah.
Yeah, and that comes across in your seminars too, David. When we were there, the passion that you have for business. You can see that.
Thank you.
All the top business people say that you have to love what you do. That's going to come through in dealing with people, clients, and being successful. So it's kind of, when you initially were looking at Action, you wanted to figure out what you wanted to do. I think that's so key initially. You want to be, are you more an office person? You want to get out and meet people? You have to kind of figure out what you like doing best, and that's probably going to lead to you being happy in business overall.
Well, absolutely. If you're not a morning person, don't buy a Panera Bread or an Atlantic Bread franchise, because you got to get up in the morning and make the bread. You got to balance that out to yourself. But you touched upon, and one thing leads to another. We talk about what you like to do. One of the three biggest areas with entrepreneurs or business owners is time, team, and money. And in the area of money, I'll leave that to you, Don. In the area of time, it's that they're always busy doing things they may not want to do. So they have to manage their time so that they can leverage out of what they don't want to do and spend their time doing what they want to do, which is why they went into business in the first place.
Right. What's the training like, David, when you became an Action International franchisee? What did you have to go through? What's the process like?
Besides military boot camp?
Yes.
No. The training is twofold. It's intense and it's ongoing.
Okay.
It's a 10-plus day training in our U.S. headquarters, which is in Las Vegas, Nevada. And then what we do ongoing is that every coach that comes out of training has 12 or more weeks of weekly phone calls with other new coaches and a coach's coach. There are quarterly team meetings. There are annual national meetings, and the structure with your master franchisor of your state might have weekly calls. There's the forum. There's a lot of support going on. So we're constantly learning. I at least have a philosophy is once you stop learning, you die.
Mm-hmm. Certainly, I would agree with that.
Okay, yeah.
But one point is that, and if I may interrupt, is that you don't become a good business coach if I graduate college with my MBA or my BS degree in something and I say, let me buy a franchise. You're really going to be successful as an action business coach after having a number of years of business experience, real-world experience that you can bring to the table.
Certainly.
And I guess really training's never going to stop, even for...
Correct. So if you look at my picture on my website, you'll see a lot of gray hair.
Okay. Explain what, and I guess from speaking so far, there's probably not a typical day for an Action International franchisee, but maybe talk about what some of the things people do on a daily basis.
Well, that's a good question. The typical day is you're spending time meeting with prospects because you're always trying to keep, as a salesperson, part of your process is to build your funnel and to build your business, and therefore we have that sales techniques. We go through all that sales training, which is something else we bring to our clients. We teach and we preach what we learn. We meet with prospects. We are networking. We're speaking. We're solving problems. I mean, just because we meet with a client between that hour or 2 hours or every other week period of time doesn't mean that we're not working on that client's problem as we move forward.
Right.
So therefore, we're consulting with others. We're reviewing documents that they've sent us as part of their homework, and that's a lot of fun, is assigning a grown-up business homework. And that's something that occurs to us. And we're always, as you've pointed out, I mean, we do speaking, we go to networking groups, we're leaders in our networking groups, our local B&I chapters and the like, our chambers. So we're always out there and giving back to the community. For example, I belong to the Main Street Society of my town, revitalizing the Main Street.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of our coaches are involved in local theater groups or local businesses, always doing something back for the community, local community organizations.
That's interesting.
Right, and you mentioned sales. Is it really a criteria for a new Action franchisee to have that past sales experience? I imagine it's taught during training and everything, but...
let's say it's not the experience, but at least the attitude to go out there and sell yourself. I mean, it's very hard for people to do that. People don't like to boast about themselves. People, I think when we teach selling, the hardest thing that people do, they do all this great stuff, and they forget to ask for the sale.
Right.
Right.
So sales experience is helpful. However, sales is a skill that can be taught.
It's a good point. I teach my staff here. You got to eventually ask, are you moving forward with us or not? You're right about that point. David, what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs looking to buy a franchise? This is a question we like to speak to people about. A lot of people listening, want to hear about this type of information.
That's a tough question. It's a simple question, yet it's a very tough one. You've got to find something that matches to you. I mean, from my own personal experience, I did not want to do retail. Some people love retail. I did not want to do retail.
Right.
Some people had service. Somebody had presented to me one of the handyman franchises. But managing people to do things that I don't do is not something that I'm comfortable with.
Right.
Motivating people, helping them make decisions, managing them in a similar way that was part of my personality, the coaching aspect, that worked for me. It resonated. So the first thing I would look for an aspiring entrepreneur or franchise owner, whether you're going to go out on your own or buy a franchise, is find something that matches your avocation or your vocation, because you want to really make it happen. The other thing is to do the plan. really go through that due diligence of what some people call the UFOC, or the United Uniform Filing Offering Circular.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Go through that. Do your due diligence and talk to people that have been in the system a few years, or even just out of training with their system, and those that have been in it for a while. You're going to find a normal bell curve, and you want to talk to the successful ones, but don't forget to talk to the average and those that have not done well, and find out, learn from their issues why they haven't done well, and think, I won't make that mistake, and I really want to do this, and I'll follow the lead. And the last thing is, seek advice. Just because you're a small business owner doesn't mean you can't have a board of directors like large corporations have.
Sure.
That board of advisors, and I'll call them advisors rather than directors, because if I do share responsibilities of directors versus advisors, accountant, banker, lawyer, and of course, the business coach. You've got to have people that you can talk to and say, hey, I was presented with this. What do you think about that? Guys, I've got this issue. What do you think we should do about this?
Right, to get as many opinions, and I think the most important thing you said was, the due diligence aspect. We see a lot of people just jump into a franchise. It's a big name, and hey, of course, I'm going to be successful, but hey, you got to look at all the bad and good and do your homework and not jump into it and get outside advice. Everything you're mentioning, David. But
Don, I want to just want to jump on one thing you said, and that was get a lot of opinions. I want you to get a lot of opinions, but you need to make the final decision. It's like Captain Kirk sitting at the table with all his different department heads. Everybody voices their opinion, but it's his decision on where the ship goes and what mission they take on. Take opinions, but remember, it's your decision and your responsibility, so you've got to balance that out. Just don't do what everybody else tells you to do.
Right. Also a good point,
Yeah, David and Don, we're going to wrap things up, but David, I wanted to thank you. You were a fabulous guest, and I look forward to attending one of your next seminars.
Well, it's very easy to do. Just go to my website, which I know you'll have a link on yours. We'll put up the schedule under events for 2007.
Absolutely. We have a link on the show page. It's ABI Coaching, isn't it, David?
Yes, it's abicoaching.com. And for those people that are listening in other parts of the country or even other parts of the world, I suggest they go to actionmembers.com.
Okay.
To be able to find a listing there of every coach in the globe and their web pages to be able to see those people as well.
Oh, great. We could post that up in the show page as well, David.
Jersey, we definitely want to see you and talk to you.
Absolutely. Thanks again, David. It's been a pleasure speaking with you again.
All right, I look forward to it.
Thanks. Take care, David.
Take care. Thanks very much, Don and Marty.
Thanks, David. Nice job, Don.
Yeah, thank you, Marty.
All right. And I guess we'll see each other next week, right? We're going to have another great guest, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, another good show. That was great. And
go
get some shopping done, Marty.
Absolutely. I'll talk to you next week, Don.
Okay.
Take care. Bye-bye.